Words hung in the air between us like an invisible guillotine. I stared at Sarah across the table of Le Bernardin, the same restaurant where I proposed to her 23 years and 4 months ago. The candle between us flickered, casting dancing shadows across her face, a face I thought I knew better than my own. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice surprisingly steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. Sarah's perfectly manicured fingers toyed with her wine glass. She looked up at me, her blue eyes showing not remorse, but relief. "I said I'm going back to Robert, my ex-boyfriend from college. And yes, James, I'll be taking half of everything we own." I set my fork down carefully, the $75 sea bass suddenly tasteless in my mouth. Around us, New York's elite continued their evening, oblivious to the destruction happening at table 19. "How long?" I asked. "Does it matter?" Sarah sipped her wine. The diamond anniversary band I'd given her last year glinted mockingly under the chandelier light. "It matters to me." She sighed as if my question was an inconvenience. 6 months. We reconnected at my college reunion. "But it's not like we haven't had problems for years, James." The waiter appeared with dessert, chocolate souffle, Sarah's favorite. I waved him away. "Check, please," I said, my voice hollow. "You're not going to make a scene?" Sarah looked almost disappointed. "No yelling, no begging me to stay?" I met her gaze. Would it change anything? "No," she admitted. "Then what would be the point?" I pulled out my wallet and placed my platinum card on the table without looking at the bill. "When are you leaving?" "Tomorrow. Robert's picking me up at 9. I've already packed what I need for now." Her voice softened with practiced concern. "You know I deserve my fair share, James. The house, the investments, the vacation property. I've been your wife for over 2 decades. I nodded slowly, a strange calm descending over me. "Then you should take your things tonight." Her perfectly penciled eyebrows drew together. "What?" "If you're leaving tomorrow, you should take your personal belongings tonight. I'll help you load them into your car." Sarah's confidence wavered just slightly. She'd expected tears, rage, desperate negotiations, not this cold efficiency. "You're just letting me go, just like that." The waiter returned with my card and the receipt. I signed it, adding a generous tip. "We had 23 good years, Sarah. I wish you happiness with Robert." I stood up and extended my hand to help her from her chair, a habit of courtesy that even betrayal couldn't break. "Let's go home. You have packing to do." The drive back to our Westchester home was silent. Sarah kept glancing at me, increasingly unnerved by my composure. I kept my eyes on the road, my hands steady on the wheel of the Mercedes S-Class we'd bought to celebrate my promotion to managing partner at Hamilton and Reed Investment Group 3 years ago. As we pulled into the driveway of our colonial-style house, Sarah finally broke the silence. "I expected you to fight for me." I killed the engine and turned to look at her. "Would you have stayed if I had?" Her hesitation was answer enough. "That's what I thought of," I said, getting out of the car. "Come on, I'll help you pack." Inside, I went straight to the bedroom closet and pulled out her Louis Vuitton suitcases, anniversary gifts from happier times. Sarah followed, her heels clicking on the hardwood floors. "You can have your clothes, jewelry, and personal items," I said evenly. "Everything else stays until the lawyer sort it out." Sarah's mouth fell open. "What do you mean, until the lawyer sort it out? James, I'm entitled to half of everything." I started taking her designer clothes from their hangers, laying them carefully on the bed. "You're entitled to what the law and our prenup say you're entitled to. No more, no less." "Prenup?" Sarah's voice rose an octave. "What prenup? We never signed a prenup." I continued packing her clothes, methodical and calm. "Yes, we did. June 15th, 2001, 3 days before our wedding. Your father insisted, remember? To protect the family money you stood to inherit." Sarah's face paled. "But that was to protect my inheritance, not your assets." "It works both ways, Sarah." Page 4, paragraph 3. "Assets acquired individually during the marriage remain individual property." I zipped up the first suitcase, and as luck would have it, most of our major assets are in my name only. "That's impossible," she whispered. "It's actually quite possible when you sign documents without reading them for 23 years. Sarah sank onto the edge of the bed, her confident facade crumbling. You can't do this. I'm not doing anything, Sarah. I'm simply following the agreement we both signed. I moved to her jewelry box, opening its mahogany lid. Your diamond collection, the sapphires your mother left you, the Tiffany pieces, all yours, of course. Stop it, she hissed, standing up. Just stop it. This isn't how this was supposed to go. I paused, holding the pearl necklace I'd given her on our 15th anniversary. And how was it supposed to go exactly? You were supposed to be devastated. Sarah's composure finally shattered. You were supposed to beg, to offer anything to keep me. Robert said, Robert. I placed the pearls in their velvet pouch and added them to her suitcase. How is old Robert these days? Still working at that boutique investment firm in Connecticut? I hear they manage, what, $100 million in assets? That's cute. Sarah's eyes narrowed. He makes enough. I'm sure he does, but I doubt it's anywhere near the 8 figures I cleared last year. I started on her shoes now, each pair worth thousands. But perhaps money isn't what you're after. Perhaps it's true love, her silence was telling. Now, about your new living arrangements, I continued. I assume you'll be moving into Robert's place? Sarah crossed her arms. For now, until I get my half of this house and our accounts. I smiled thinly. I think you'll find that more challenging than you expect. What does that mean? Alarm crept into her voice. It means I've had 23 years to prepare for contingencies, Sarah. It means I didn't become one of New York's top financial strategists by accident. I handed her a leather-bound portfolio. It means you should have a look at this before you make any more assumptions about what you will be walking away with. She opened it with trembling fingers, her eyes growing wider as she scanned the documents inside. Property deeds, account statements, corporate structures, all meticulously organized to protect the wealth I'd built. This isn't possible, she whispered. It's not only possible, it's legally bulletproof. I've had the top estate attorneys in Manhattan review it yearly. I continued packing her things as if we were discussing nothing more important than the weather. The house is owned by Rhodes Family Trust, not me personally. Most of our investments are held through a series of LLCs. Your name isn't on any of it, but I'm your wife. And as my wife, you've enjoyed every luxury these arrangements could provide. You've wanted for nothing. I zipped the second suitcase. But as Robert's girlfriend, your financial situation will be considerably different. Sarah threw the portfolio across the room, papers flying everywhere. You planned for this. All these years, you were planning for me to leave. No, Sarah. I planned for the protection of assets I worked 18-hour days to build. I planned for financial security regardless of what life threw at us. I met her gaze steadily. I didn't plan for betrayal, but I did plan for every other contingency. I'll fight you, she said, voice shaking with rage. I'll get the best divorce attorney in New York. You're welcome to try, but since your name isn't on the house deed, you'll need to be out by tomorrow as planned. Hotel expenses will be your responsibility, of course. Sarah stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. I never really knew you, did I? That makes 2 of us. I checked my watch. It's getting late and you have a big day on tomorrow. Should I call you an Uber to take these bags now, or would you prefer to have Robert pick them up in the morning? You heartless bastard. Just practical, Sarah. Just practical. She grabbed her phone from her purse. I'm calling Lauren. She'll know what to do. Lauren, Sarah's younger sister, a moderately successful divorce attorney who'd always looked at me with barely disguised contempt. Of course, that would be her first move. By all means, I said, gesturing to the phone. I'm sure she'll have plenty of advice. None of it particularly useful against the legal team at Harrington, Wells & Stone, but advice nonetheless. Sarah stepped into the hallway, her voice dropping to a furious whisper as she explained the situation to her sister. I could hear Lauren's shrill response, even from across the room. I continued packing Sarah's belongings, a strange sense of peace washing over me. The weight of suspicion I'd carried for months, the late-night text, the unexplained absences, the sudden work trips from a woman who hadn't worked a day in our marriage, lifted from my shoulders. 20 minutes later, Sarah returned, her face flushed with renewed confidence. Lauren says you're bluffing. She says no judge will uphold these arrangements when I've been your wife for 23 years. She says it's a textbook case of hidden assets and financial manipulation. I nodded, unsurprised. Lauren always was optimistic, unrealistically so. But then again, family law isn't really her specialty, is it? Class action suits against department stores for slip and falls is more her thing, as I recall. She's coming over, and she's bringing her colleague Jackson Smith. He specializes in high net worth divorces. Jackson Smith from Peterson and Hayes? I couldn't help but smile. Interesting choice. Sarah mistook my amusement for concern. You know him. We played golf at the same club. His daughter interned at my firm last summer. Nice girl. Very bright. I closed the third and final suitcase. I helped him restructure his retirement portfolio just last month. The confidence drained from Sarah's face. You're lying. Call him and find out. Though I suspect he'll have to recuse himself due to conflict of interest once he realizes whose house he's being summoned to. Sarah's phone dinged with a text message. She looked down, then back at me with venom in her eyes. They'll be here in 20 minutes. Wonderful. I'll make coffee. While Sarah paced the bedroom, making frantic calls to friends whose husbands I probably also golfed with, I went downstairs to the kitchen. I ground premium coffee beans, filled the machine with filtered water, and set out our best china, the Wedgwood set Sarah had insisted we needed for proper entertaining. By the time the doorbell rang, the house was filled with the rich aroma of French roast. I opened the door to find Lauren, her face tight with barely contained fury, and beside her, the tall figure of Jackson Smith, looking distinctly uncomfortable. James, Lauren said, not bothering with the pleasantries, we need to talk. Of course. I stepped aside to let them in. I've made coffee. Sarah is upstairs. Jackson cleared his throat. James, I didn't realize that it was my home you were coming to. No reason you would. Please come in. I led them to the living room where Sarah was now waiting, her arms crossed defensively over her chest. Lauren immediately went to her side while Jackson hovered uncertainly by the doorway. Sarah has told me about your little financial shell game, Lauren began, her voice sharp. I want you to know that... Actually, Jackson interrupted, his discomfort evident. I think I should recuse myself from this situation. I have a professional relationship with Mr. Rhodes that creates a conflict of interest. Lauren turned to him, betrayal written across her face. What are you talking about? You agreed to take this case. That was before I knew who the husband was, Jackson said apologetically. I can't ethically represent Sarah against James when he's both my client and a business associate. Lauren's face reddened. Then I'll handle it myself. Coffee? I offered, placing the tray on the table. No, Lauren snapped. What I want is for you to explain how you think you're going to get away with hiding marital assets from my sister. I sat down, pouring myself a cup. There are no hidden assets, Lauren. Everything is properly documented, legally structured, and transparently reported to the IRS annually. Bullshit, she spat. Sarah is entitled to half of everything you've built together. The operative word being together, I replied calmly. Sarah hasn't worked a day since we got married. She hasn't contributed to our financial growth in any meaningful way. She supported your career. She maintained your home. She was your wife. Yes, she was. I sipped my coffee, and in exchange, she lived an exceptionally comfortable life. Private schools for the kids, luxury vacations, charity galas, spa retreats, unlimited shopping, all financed by me. Sarah stepped forward. I gave you the best years of my life, James. And I gave you financial security beyond what most people can imagine. But now you've chosen to leave for Robert, and that's your right. What isn't your right is half of assets that aren't jointly owned. Jackson shifted awkwardly. I should go. Please stay, I said. As a professional courtesy, I'd appreciate your objective assessment of the situation. Lauren glared at him. Don't you dare. Jackson sighed heavily. I've seen the prenup. It was included in James's estate planning documents that I reviewed last year. It's solid, Lauren. Ironclad, actually. What about the fact that it's ancient? 23 years, Lauren argued. Age strengthens it, actually, Jackson replied reluctantly. Consistent adherence to its terms over 2 decades makes it nearly unassailable. Sarah sank onto the sofa, the reality of her situation finally sinking in. So what am I entitled to? Per the prenup, I answered, you keep all gifts given to you during the marriage. Jewelry, clothes, personal items. You retain your inheritance from your parents, which I believe is around $300,000 in a trust. And you receive a lump sum of $100,000, which was the agreed settlement amount in the event of divorce. Lauren laughed incredulously. $100,000? Your watch cost more than that. It did, I acknowledged, but that's the figure Sarah agreed to. This is insane, Lauren said. No judge will uphold this. Jackson cleared his throat again. Actually, judges routinely uphold prenuptial agreements, especially when both parties had legal representation during the signing, which to the document I saw you did, Sarah. Your father's attorney represented you. Sarah's face crumpled. Daddy's lawyer, I barely paid attention. I was focused on the wedding plans, which explains why you missed the updates we filed on our 5th, 10th, and 15th anniversaries, all of which you signed, I added. Lauren grabbed the portfolio I'd given Sarah earlier, which she'd brought downstairs. What about all this? These trusts and LLCS, those have to be marital assets. They're corporate structures established for estate planning and tax purposes, all declared in legal. Sarah was aware of them. Her signature is on many of the documents as a witness, not an owner. Lauren flipped through the pages frantically, looking for any weakness. The house! The vacation property in the Hamptons. Both owned by the Rhodes Family Trust, established before our marriage. I am the trustee, not the owner. The beneficiaries are our children. At the mention of our children, Sarah flinched. The kids, what will you tell them? The truth, I said simply, that you've decided to leave me for Robert, and that the financial arrangements we've always had will continue to provide for them, but not for you. They'll hate me. That's not my concern, Sarah. You made your choice. Lauren slammed the portfolio shut. This isn't over. We'll fight this in court. You're welcome to try, but I suggest consulting with a more specialized attorney first. I looked at Jackson, someone without a conflict of interest. Jackson nodded uncomfortably. I can provide some referrals. This is a nightmare, Sarah whispered. What am I supposed to do now? What you plan to do, I replied. Go to Robert, just with substantially less of my money than you anticipated. Lauren stood up, pulling Sarah to her feet. Come on, Sarah. You're coming home with me tonight. We'll figure this out. I rose as well. I've packed 3 suitcases with your essentials, Sarah. Would you like me to bring them down? She nodded mutely, tears finally beginning to fall. As I carried the luggage downstairs, I heard Lauren's fierce whispers to her sister. Don't worry. He's bluffing. No one is this prepared. We'll find the weak spot in his armor. I set the suitcases by the door. Jackson, would you mind helping me load these into Lauren's car? Clearly eager to escape the tension, Jackson quickly agreed. As we carried the bags outside, he spoke in a low voice. James, I'm sorry about this. I had no idea. No apology necessary, I assured him. Professional hazard. For what it's worth, your arrangements are some of the most comprehensive I've seen. Most men aren't nearly so thorough. I closed the trunk. Most men haven't spent their careers watching other men lose everything in divorces they didn't see coming. Back inside, Sarah was putting on her coat, her movements mechanical. You'll regret this, James, Lauren promised as she guided her sister to the door. When we're done, you'll wish you'd just given her what she deserved from the beginning. I held the door open for them. Good night, Lauren. Sarah, I'll have my attorney contact you regarding the formal separation agreement. As they walked to the car, I heard Sarah ask her sister in a broken voice, What will I tell Robert? I closed the door before I could hear Lauren's response. Standing alone in the entryway of the home I'd carefully protected for over 2 decades, I felt no triumph, no vindication, only a hollow sense of necessity fulfilled. I'd done what was needed to protect what I'd built. Nothing more, nothing less. I poured myself 2 fingers of Macallan 25 and sat in my office staring at the photograph on my desk. Sarah and me on our wedding day, young and genuinely in love. I wondered when that love had curdled into strategy and suspicion. Perhaps it had always been there, lurking beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect marriage. My phone buzzed with a text from our son, Michael, a junior at Cornell. "Dad, is everything okay? Mom just called me crying but wouldn't explain what's wrong." I took a deep breath and called him. He deserved to hear it from me, clearly and without emotional manipulation. "Michael, I have something important to tell you and your sister. Is this a good time to talk?" The next morning I woke at my usual time, 5:30 a.m. Decades of financial market demands had programmed my body to rise before dawn, regardless of personal circumstances. The house felt different, not emptier, as I might have expected, but unburdened. I made coffee, stronger than the blend Sarah preferred, and checked my phone. 14 missed calls from her, 3 from Lauren, and texts from both our children. Michael's message was supportive. "I'm here if you need to talk, Dad." Emma, our daughter and always closer to her mother, was less charitable. "How could you just let her go like that?" I answered Michael with thanks and told Emma we could talk when she was ready. Sarah's messages I left unread. At 7 a.m., my phone rang again. Sarah. This time I answered. "James," her voice was raw from crying, "we need to talk." "I'm listening." "Robert, he's having second thoughts about us." She paused. "About the future." I said nothing, letting the silence stretch between us. "When I told him about the financial situation," she continued, "he seemed disappointed, like I'd failed him somehow." "That's unfortunate," I said neutrally. Can I come home?" "Just to talk, please, James." I closed my eyes, feeling a momentary twinge of what might have been pity. "No, Sarah." That chapter is closed. But 23 years ended last night at dinner when you told me you were leaving for another man. My voice remained steady. "Whatever conversation you want to have now should happen through our attorneys." "James, please." "Goodbye, Sarah." I hung up and blocked her number. Then I called my attorney, Richard Harrington, and briefed him on the situation. His response was exactly what I expected from New York's most formidable divorce lawyer. "Everything's in order, James. We've maintained all structures immaculately for years. She doesn't have a case." He paused. "Though I should warn you, desperate people can get nasty. Be prepared for allegations, abuse, infidelity, whatever her attorney thinks might stick." "I've been preparing for 23 years, Richard." Nothing she says can surprise me now. After the call, I dressed for the office. Life wouldn't pause for my personal drama, and the markets certainly wouldn't. As managing partner, I had responsibilities to clients who trusted me with billions of their dollars. Sarah might have shattered our marriage, but she wouldn't disrupt my professional obligations. At Hamilton and Reed, my assistant Diana met me with concerned eyes. "Mr. Rhodes, are you all right? You look different today." "I'm fine, Diana. My wife and I have separated, but it won't affect my work performance." Her eyes widened, but her professionalism prevailed. "I'm sorry to hear that, sir. Your 9 a.m. with Westfield Capital is confirmed, and Mr. Sullivan called about the Singapore acquisition." "Thank you. Please let David know I'll need a few minutes with him before the Westfield meeting." David Parker had been my right hand at the firm for 15 years. If anyone needed to know about potential personal complications, it was him. In my office, I briefed David on the essentials. His reaction was characteristically measured. "The asset protection structures will hold," he assured me, having helped design many of them. "But the publicity could be uncomfortable. Should we prepare a statement for major clients?" "Not yet. Let's see how Sarah proceeds first." David nodded. "And the Singapore deal moves forward as planned. My personal situation doesn't change the fundamentals." Throughout the day, I maintained my usual schedule: client meetings, investment reviews, strategy sessions. If my colleagues noticed anything different about me, they had the discretion not to mention it. At 3:15 p.m., Richard called. "Lauren Thompson has engaged Patricia Winters to represent Sarah." I knew the name. Patricia Winters specialized in high-profile divorces, where publicity was as much a weapon as legal arguments. "Let me guess, they're threatening media exposure unless I agree to a more generous settlement." Richard's dry laugh confirmed my suspicion. Almost verbatim, They're asking for 20 million plus the house. The answer is no, as always. I'll convey that. Expect escalation. By 5 p.m., the first salvo had been fired, not in court, but on Sarah's Instagram account, where her 15,000 followers, mostly charity circuit acquaintances and country club friends, were treated to a tearful selfie captioned, "After 23 years of supporting his career and raising his children, my husband has locked me out with nothing. Number financial abuse, number narcissistic divorce." My phone immediately lit up with messages from concerned friends and business associates. I ignored them all, focusing instead on finalizing the Singapore acquisition papers until 8:30 p.m. As I was leaving the office, Michael called. "Dad, have you seen what Mom posted?" "I'm aware of it. It's crazy. She's making it sound like you threw her on the street with nothing but the clothes on her back. Your mother is upset and lashing out. It's to be expected. But it's lies. You paid for everything her entire adult life." I stepped into the elevator, suddenly feeling every minute of my 52 years. "Michael, there's something important I want you to understand. In situations like this, people will take sides based on their own agendas, not the facts. What matters is that you and Emma know the truth." Emma's confused. She's getting one story from Mom and another from me. "Tell her she can call me anytime. I'll always be honest with her." "Dad, are you okay?" The elevator reached the lobby and I stepped out into the cool New York evening. "I'm fine, son. This isn't my first crisis." But it was in many ways. Financial crises I could navigate with clear-eyed precision. This personal implosion was different, messier, more unpredictable. I decided to walk home, needing the 40 blocks to clear my head. The city pulsed around me, indifferent to my private drama. Couples passed by, some holding hands, others arguing quietly. I wondered how many of them had contingency plans, how many were one dinner conversation away from destruction. My phone buzzed again, a text from David. "Heads up, Sarah called 3 major clients today, Sullivan, Breckman, and the Westlake Foundation, trying to warn them about instability at the firm due to your erratic behavior lately. All 3 called me immediately. I've contained it, but thought you should know." I stopped walking, genuine anger rising for the first time. Targeting me personally was expected, but threatening the business I'd built, the livelihoods of my employees, the trust of my clients, that crossed a line I hadn't anticipated even Sarah would breach. I texted back, "Thank you. Have legal prepare a cease and desist for interference with business relationships. Send it to Patricia Winters tonight." By the time I reached my building, I'd received notification that Sarah had been served with emergency restraining orders, preventing her from contacting any Hamilton and Reed clients, employees, or associates. The doorman greeted me with unusual deference, making me wonder what gossip had already reached him. Inside my apartment, the silence was different than it had been that morning, heavier somehow, as if the day's events had added physical weight to the air. I poured another Macallan and called Richard. "She went after the business," I said without preamble. "I heard." That was a miscalculation on their part. Why would Patricia let her do something so obviously actionable? Richard was quiet for a moment. "I don't think she did. This feels like Sarah going rogue, trying to hurt you where she thinks you're most vulnerable. She doesn't know me at all if she thinks I wouldn't protect the firm. People in emotional distress rarely think clearly, James. And from what you've told me, Sarah hasn't had to think strategically about finances for over 2 decades. You've handled everything." The observation struck uncomfortably close to home. Had I created this situation by shielding Sarah from financial reality for our entire marriage? "What's their next move likely to be?" I asked, pushing the thought aside. "If Patricia is smart, she'll rein Sarah in and focus on finding technical flaws in the prenup. If not, expect more social media drama and possibly attempts to alienate your children." Emma's already wavering. "That's to be expected. Daughters often side with mothers initially, especially when the mother is portraying herself as a victim." After hanging up, I sat in the dark living room, nursing my whiskey and watching the city lights through the floor-to-ceiling windows. For the first time since Sarah's announcement, I allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had happened. 23 years gone in an instant. The future I'd planned, retirement travel, grandchildren growing old together, erased and replaced with legal battles and family division. Had I ever really known her? Had she ever really known me? Or had we been playing roles for so long that the real people underneath had become strangers? My phone rang again. Emma, I answered immediately. Dad? Her voice was small, uncertain. I'm here, sweetheart. Sweetheart? Mom says, she says you planned this for years, that you never really loved her, that you were just waiting for a chance to discard her. I closed my eyes, pain lancing through me at the accusation. Do you believe that, Emma? She hesitated. I don't know what to believe. Everything's happening so fast. Then let me ask you something. In all the years you've known me, have I ever been cruel? Have I ever been unfair? No, she admitted softly. I loved your mother, Emma. I built a life with her, created a family with her, worked 18-hour days to give all of you everything you could ever want. Then why won't you just give her what she's asking for now? You can afford it, Dad, because actions have consequences. Your mother chose to leave me for another man. That was her right. But it doesn't entitle her to the rewards of a commitment she decided to break. Emma was quiet for a long moment. She's really upset, Dad. I've never seen her like this. I understand that, and I'm sorry she's suffering, but her choices led her here, not mine. She says Robert isn't returning her calls now. I wasn't surprised. Robert Palmer had always been a fair-weather presence, charming when things were easy, absent when they became difficult. Sarah had left substance for shadow, security for excitement. That's between them, I said carefully. My concern is you and Michael. Are you okay? I guess it's just weird. Everything was normal last week, and now nothing will ever be the same. Some changes come without warning, Emma, but you're strong. You'll adapt. After saying goodnight to my daughter, I checked my email one last time before bed. Among the business correspondence was a message from Sarah's best friend, Diane Miller. James, I don't know what to say. Sarah told me everything. Her affair with Robert, her plans to leave you, her shock at finding out she won't get what she expected financially. I want you to know that not everyone is buying her victim story. Some of us remember how much you did for her all these years, how you supported her every whim and dream while well, I'll just say it wasn't always reciprocated. I'm here if you need a friendly ear. I stared at the message, unsure how to respond, or even if I should. Diane and her husband Tom had been our closest friends for 15 years. We'd vacationed together, celebrated holidays together, weathered life's storms together. Or so I'd thought. I typed a brief reply. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate your support more than I can express right now. Sleep came fitfully that night, my dreams filled with courtrooms and falling stock tickers, and Sarah's face, not as it had been across the restaurant table, cold and determined, but as it had been on our wedding day, radiant with what I'd believed was true love. The weeks that followed established a new rhythm to my life. By day, I focused on Hamilton and Reed with redoubled intensity. By night, I dealt with the cascading legal and personal fallout of my collapsing marriage. Patricia Winters proved as formidable as her reputation suggested. Unable to break the prenuptial agreement directly, she pivoted to claims of emotional abuse and financial coercion, allegations designed more for public consumption than legal success. Sarah's social media campaign expanded to include tearful video testimonials about her decades of sacrifice and the systematic financial abuse she'd allegedly endured. Each new post brought waves of supportive comments from people who knew nothing of our actual relationship, interspersed with occasional skepticism from those who'd witnessed Sarah's champagne-soaked, leisure-filled life firsthand. Richard kept me updated on the legal maneuverings, most of which were denied or dismissed by increasingly impatient judges. The prenup held firm, as did the various trusts and corporate structures I'd established. Emma gradually came back to my corner as Sarah's public behavior became more erratic. Michael never wavered, his analytical mind seeing through his mother's emotional manipulation from the start. 1 month after that fateful dinner at Le Bernardin, I received an unexpected visitor at my office. Diana buzzed my intercom shortly after lunch. Mr. Rhodes, there's a Mr. Palmer here to see you. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's quite insistent. Robert Palmer, Sarah's paramour, the catalyst for our separation, the man she'd chosen over our 23-year marriage. Send him in, I said, curiosity overcoming my initial impulse to refuse. Robert entered my office with considerably less swagger than I'd expected from Sarah's college flame, who had supposedly swept her off her feet. He was a handsome man, about my age but with more hair and less gray, dressed in a suit that was expensive but not quite right for his frame. Purchased, not tailored. James, he said, extending his hand tentatively. Thank you for seeing me. I shook his hand briefly, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. What can I do for you, Robert? He sat down, clearly uncomfortable. This is, unconventional, I know. That's one word for it. He rubbed his hands together nervously. I want to apologize. For my role in all this, I leaned back in my chair, studying him. Interesting. Why? Because I didn't understand what I was getting into. He met my eyes directly for the first time. Sarah wasn't honest with me about a lot of things. Such as? She told me you were essentially separated already, that you lived separate lives, that the marriage was just a formality you maintained for appearances. I kept my expression neutral. Go on. She said you'd already discussed divorce amicably, that you'd agreed she should get half of everything, that the only reason you hadn't filed yet was some complicated tax situation that would resolve by year end. Despite everything, I almost laughed. And you believe that? Robert shifted uncomfortably. We were rekindling something powerful, something from our youth. I wanted to believe her. And now I realize I was manipulated, used as a catalyst for her exit strategy. He sighed heavily. A strategy that backfired spectacularly, as it turns out. I studied him, trying to decide if his contrition was genuine or merely another manipulation. Why come to me with this, Robert? What do you hope to accomplish? He straightened slightly. Two things. First, to apologize man to man. What happened wasn't honorable, and I played my part in it. And second, to let you know that I've ended things with Sarah. Completely. His expression hardened slightly. She's become unstable, making demands, threats. I can't have that in my life or my business. I nodded slowly. I appreciate your candor, though I'm curious why you think I'd care about your relationship status with my soon-to-be ex-wife. Robert stood, adjusting his suit jacket. Because she's still your problem, legally speaking. And I thought you should know that she's desperate now. No relationship, no financial windfall, no clear path forward. In my experience, desperate people do desperate things. After he left, I sat contemplating his warning. Was it a genuine heads-up from one man to another, or some more complex manipulation? Either way, he'd given me something to consider. I called Richard immediately. Sarah's relationship with Palmer has ended, I told him. He came to my office to inform me personally. Richard was silent for a moment. That's unusual. He claims she's becoming unstable. Suggested we should be prepared for escalation. I'd take that seriously. When someone loses everything they thought they had, with no backup plan, he didn't need to finish the thought. Increase security at the office in my apartment, I decided, and let's expedite the divorce proceedings if possible. I want this resolved. That evening, as I was leaving work, Diana rushed to catch me at the elevator. Mr. Rhodes, I thought you should see this before you leave. She handed me her tablet, opened to Sarah's Instagram page. The latest post showed a tearful Sarah holding what appeared to be medical records. The caption read, "After 23 years of supporting a man who promised to care for me in sickness and in health, I'm facing serious health challenges, alone and financially abandoned. Some vows mean nothing to some people. Number toxic marriage number, prayers welcome." Diana watched my face carefully. "Is Mrs. Rhodes ill?" "Not that I'm aware of," I replied, handing back the tablet, "but I'll look into it." "Thank you, Diana." In the car home, I called Emma. "Dad, is everything okay? Have you seen your mother's latest post?" Emma sighed. "Yeah, it's getting weird. She won't tell me what's actually wrong with her, just keeps saying it's serious and life-altering." "Has she seen a doctor that you know of?" Aunt Lauren took her to someone last week, but Mom was vague about it. Just said they were running tests, and it didn't look good. I felt a twinge of genuine concern. Despite everything, the possibility of Sarah facing a real health crisis wasn't something I could dismiss entirely. If she's truly ill, Emma, she has excellent health insurance through my company that will remain active until the divorce is final. Make sure she knows that. I will. Emma paused. Dad, do you think she's making it up? For sympathy? The question hung between us, neither of us wanting to voice the obvious suspicion. I think your mother is going through a difficult time, I said carefully. And people in pain sometimes make choices they wouldn't otherwise make. That night, I received an email from Patricia Winters with the subject line, Medical Considerations and Divorce Settlement. Attached were vague medical records suggesting abnormal test results and further investigation needed, along with a new settlement proposal requesting $15 million in light of these concerning developments. I forwarded it to Richard with a single question. Legitimate? His response came minutes later, doubtful. Notice the records don't actually specify any diagnosis or even clear symptoms. We'll request independent medical examination as part of discovery. The next morning, I had David check Sarah's health insurance claims through our company plan. There had been a recent visit to a general practitioner and some standard blood work, nothing indicating serious illness or specialized testing. As predicted, when our legal team requested independent verification of Sarah's alleged health issues, Patricia Winters backpedaled, claiming patient confidentiality concerns and suggesting we should take Sarah's word as a matter of basic human decency. The court disagreed, ordering full medical disclosure if health was to be considered in the settlement. The health claims quietly disappeared from Sarah's social media and legal arguments. 2 days later, I received a text from an unknown number. You think you've won, but you haven't. Every man has secrets, even you, James. Would Hamilton and Reed's clients be interested in yours? Would the children? I showed the message to Richard, who immediately filed for harassment protections and engaged digital forensics to trace the number. It led back to a burner phone purchased with cash at a convenience store near Lauren's apartment. Classic intimidation tactic, Richard assured me. If they had anything real, they'd have used it already. But the message lingered in my mind, not because I had devastating secrets to hide. My life had been remarkably straightforward, focused on work and family, but because it signaled a dangerous level of desperation. The next escalation came through Michael. He called me late one night, his voice tight with anger. Dad, Mom just told me something, and I need to know if it's true. What did she say? She said, he took a deep breath. She said you cheated on her. Multiple times, with her friends, with your colleagues, that you had some kind of understanding where she looked the other way because of your financial support. The accusation was so absurd I was momentarily speechless. Michael, I have never been unfaithful to your mother, not once in 23 years. She said you'd deny it, that you're pathological about maintaining your image. Son, think about what you know of me. Have you ever seen me behave inappropriately with any woman? Have you ever heard rumors or whispers about me from family friends? Has there ever been a single piece of evidence to suggest I was anything but faithful to your mother? His silence told me he was thinking it through. She's getting desperate, Michael. The legal case isn't going her way, so she's trying to turn you and Emma against me. Yeah, he finally said. That's what I thought too. But I had to ask. I understand, and I appreciate your willingness to hear my side. After we hung up, I sat staring at the New York skyline from my living room window, a familiar hollow feeling expanding in my chest. The woman I'd loved, built a life with, raised children with, was now systematically trying to destroy not just my finances, but my relationships and reputation. I called Richard again. We need to end this, I said without preamble. It's getting toxic for the children. I agree, but Sarah and her counsel seem intent on dragging this out as long as possible. Then let's change the equation. I'll increase the settlement offer to $500,000 if she agrees to complete confidentiality and non-disparagement for life, and she drops all other claims immediately. Richard was quiet for a moment. That's significantly more than the prenup requires. It's still far less than she's demanding, and it would be worth it to protect the children from more of this ugliness. I'll present it first thing tomorrow. The response came by mid-afternoon, rejection, with a counter-demand for $10 million. That evening, Emma called in tears. Dad, Mom's saying terrible things about you. That you controlled her, isolated her, monitored her spending as a form of abuse. That you threatened to destroy her if she ever left you. I closed my eyes, feeling a wave of exhaustion. None of that is true, Emma. You lived in our home. Did you ever see me control or abuse your mother? No, she admitted. But she says it happened when we weren't around. Emma, your mother had complete freedom. Her own credit cards with no limits. Her own car. Her own friends. She traveled to spas and retreats without me regularly. Does that sound like someone being controlled? No. Emma's voice strengthened slightly, and it doesn't sound like you either. This will be over eventually, I promised her. Try not to let it come between us. After we hung up, I poured a larger Macallan than usual and made a difficult decision. I called Sarah directly, using Emma's phone number since her own was still blocked. She answered on the first ring. Emma, it's James. Silence then. What do you want? To end this circus before it does any more damage to our children. Then give me what I deserve. I offered $500,000. That's 5 times what the prenup specifies. She laughed bitterly. After 23 years, it's an insult. It's reality, Sarah. The legal structures are holding. The allegations aren't sticking. All you're accomplishing is hurting Michael and Emma. Don't you dare use the children against me. Her voice rose sharply. You're the one who's being unreasonable. The path you're on leads nowhere good, Sarah. Not for you, not for the kids. Take the offer, sign the papers, and move on with your life. Move on to what? Her voice cracked with genuine emotion for the first time. I'm 50 years old, James. I haven't worked in decades. Robert's gone. My friends are choosing sides. What exactly am I moving on to? For a moment, I felt a flicker of the compassion I'd once had for her. You'll have $500,000, your jewelry collection worth at least that much, and your inheritance. That's more than most people have to start over. It's nothing compared to what we built together. What I built, I corrected her gently, while you enjoyed the benefits. You cold bastard. You really have no heart, do you? I did once. I gave it to you on our wedding day. You handed it back at Le Bernardin. She was quiet for a long moment. I'm not taking your insulting offer. Then we continue as we have been. But know this, every false allegation, every manipulative social media post, every attempt to turn the children against me only strengthens my resolve. The offer won't increase, Sarah. It will only decrease. I hung up before she could respond. 2 days later, I received a disturbing call from Emma. Dad, I'm worried about Mom. She's not answering her phone, and she posted something really strange on Instagram last night. What kind of post? Just a black square without the caption morning when there's nothing left. I tried calling, but it goes straight to voicemail. Aunt Lauren can't reach her either. A cold sensation settled in my stomach. Where was she staying last time you knew? Some cheap motel in White Plains. The Pinewood, I think. She said she couldn't afford anything else. I'll handle it, Emma. Stay where you are, and I'll call you as soon as I know anything. I called Richard immediately. I need the exact address of where Sarah's staying. Her daughter can't reach her, and there's reason for concern. Richard promised to call back within 5 minutes. While waiting, I tried Sarah's number myself, straight to voicemail, as Emma had said. Richard called back with the motel address and room number. Do you want me to send someone? No, I'll go myself. Have a wellness check called in just in case, and let Lauren know I'm heading there now. The drive to White Plains took 40 minutes. The Pinewood Motel was exactly as depressing as its name suggested. A rundown 2-story structure with peeling paint and flickering neon. Sarah Rhodes, who had spent 2 decades in luxury homes and 5-star hotels, reduced to this. The thought twisted something inside me, despite everything. The motel manager was reluctant to open the room until I mentioned the police wellness check that was already on its way. The The door swung open to reveal a small, dark room that smelled of stale cigarettes and cheap cleaning products. Sarah wasn't there. Her belongings were clothes strewn across the unmade bed, makeup scattered on the bathroom counter, an empty wine bottle on the nightstand, but no Sarah. The manager shrugged. Haven't seen her since yesterday morning. Thought maybe she checked out and forgot her stuff. As I was about to leave, I noticed Sarah's phone on the floor between the bed and wall, its battery dead. Next to it was a handwritten note. I picked it up, my hand suddenly unsteady. James, you win. I have nothing left. No husband, no lover, no money, no future. Even our children see me as I am, a failure at 50. I can't start over. I don't want to. 23 years erased like they meant nothing. Maybe they didn't. Tell the kids I'm sorry. I just can't do this anymore. Sarah, my blood went cold. I called Richard while rushing back to my car. She's not at the motel, but there's a suicide note. We need to find her now. I'll alert the police. Any idea where she might go? I thought rapidly. Check her credit cards. See if there's any recent activity. And call Lauren. Sarah might have said something to her about a place that was special. As I drove, Emma called again. Dad? Any news? Emma, I need you to think. Did your mother ever mention a place she might go when she was upset? Somewhere significant to her? I don't know. Wait, maybe the lake house. The rental we had that summer in Saranac when I was 12? She always said it was her happiest memory. Do you remember where exactly? Not the address, but it was called Pine Cove Cottage, on the east side of Lower Saranac Lake. Thank you, sweetheart. I'll call you back. I called Richard with the information. He promised to contact local authorities immediately. 4 hours later, I received the call I'd been dreading. A New York State police officer's solemn voice informed me that they'd found Sarah's car parked at a scenic overlook near Lower Saranac Lake. Inside was Sarah, unresponsive, with an empty pill bottle and a half-empty bottle of vodka. I'm sorry, Mr. Rhodes. The paramedics tried, but she was already gone. The world seemed to tilt sideways. Despite our bitter ending, despite her betrayal and the ugliness of recent weeks, Sarah had been my wife for 23 years, the mother of my children. Once, the love of my life. Mr. Rhodes, are you there? Yes, I managed. What happens now? The medical examiner will need to conduct an examination, but all indications suggest a self-administered overdose. We found additional prescription medications in her purse, apparently obtained from multiple doctors. I see. And when can I tell our children? You're free to notify family immediately. We'll need you to make a formal identification, but that can wait until tomorrow if necessary. I thanked the officer and sat in my parked car, trying to process what had happened and what came next. The crushing task of telling Michael and Emma that their mother was gone. The arrangements that would need to be made. The inevitable questions about why she'd done it. And underneath it all, a crushing weight of what-ifs. What if I'd been less rigid about the settlement? What if I'd recognized the depths of her desperation? What if I'd reached out when Robert left her? I dialed Emma's number, then Michael's, arranging a video call with both of them. There was no good way to deliver this news, but they deserved to hear it from me, together as gently as possible. As I waited for them to join the call, I looked at the wedding photo I kept in my wallet. Sarah and me, young and full of hope, with no idea of the journey ahead or how it would end. I'm sorry, or I whispered to the smiling face in the photograph. I'm so sorry it came to this. The call connected, showing my children's anxious faces on the screen. I took a deep breath, knowing that the words I was about to speak would change all of our lives forever. Michael, Emma, I have something very difficult to tell you about your mother.